So I'll admit, this video is like half late, half up to date, and it's all because of some of the recent events that had happened with this Detroit Red Wings top prospect and everything he has been up to. So, this is kind of a bittersweet update, and it's one of these things where you have to say goodbye to the good things while also opening up new chapters in life, because when it comes to Detroit Red Wings' 9th overall pick in the 2023 NHL Entry Draft, Nate Danielson, he has just wrapped up his 2023-2024 WHL season. Now, we've done our part in chronicling what it was Danielson has done this year. He last year was a point-per-game guy, 78 points in 68 games played. You could debate that his record wasn't really worthy of being drafted 9th overall in 2023 when compared to some of the guys that were still on the board. But this season, Nate Danielson started going off in a way that we didn't really expect. His Brandon Wheat Kings number as the captain was at 26 points in 26 games played, still in that regular point production territory, but after he got traded over to Portland, he had started to go off, 41 total points in 28 games in the regular season, and 3 points in 5 games in the World Junior Tournament. Now, we had just talked about Nate Danielson and his playoffs, because that has come to an end at the hands of the Moose Jaw Warriors. In totality, Danielson had 24 points in 18 games played, a very good point production metric, 7 goals, 17 assists, and of course it was highlighted by the multiple multi-point games that he had in a row in the series against the Prince George Cougars. Now, the Winterhawks actually did do pretty well. They beat the Royals in 4, they beat the Silvertips in 4, they beat the Cougars in 6, but then heading up against a very stacked Moose Jaw Warriors team, they ended up getting swept. Now, Danielson did have 3 points in 4 games in the process, but I mean, the Moose Jaw Warriors are so good this season. Just take a look at this team and their point production. Yager Furcus, 126 points. Adley Calvert, 95 points. Brayden Yager, 95 points. Denton Mateychuk was one of the best defensemen in the league, 75 points in 52 games as a blue liner. Not to mention Matthew Savoy, who had 23 games played and 47 points still. Lots and lots of success with this Moose Jaw Warriors team, so I'm not really surprised to see that Portland ended up getting taken out here. And from the looks of it, it seems like a lot of Winterhawks fans are totally okay with it too. It's like, hey, this is the furthest that the Portland Winterhawks have gone in the playoffs in years. There's a lot of gratitude and a lot of consideration being shown for this group of guys, and the love is real, man. Totally. Especially for a guy like Nate Danielson, who wasn't initially a part of this Winterhawks team to start out the year, eventually getting traded over there. And we said in the video when he got traded, hey, this could be a really good opportunity because Portland is much better than Brandon. We definitely saw that from a point production standpoint for Nate Danielson. But all getting swept talk aside, we did have ourselves this new update published to us from Jonathan Kritzier on Twitter. Now, Kritzier does stuff for the Portland Winterhawks scene. He is the beat writer for Portland Winterhawk Hockey Talk, so he's kind of in the scoop as to what's going on over there. I made it to the VMC this afternoon to participate in the Winterhawks exit interviews. I'll have more in the coming days on PNW Hockey Talk, but here are a couple of key takeaways. This tweet was published yesterday in the evening, and it talks about a bunch of the moves that are happening. Nate Danielson, number 1, is heading to Grand Rapids, the Detroit Red Wings AHL affiliate. Number 2, Tyson Jugnoth will be going over to Coachella, the Seattle Kraken AHL affiliate, not the concert. He'll be, maybe suiting up there some other time. Josh Davies played through a grade 2+ tear in his MCL. Carter Sotheran broke his wrist in Game 6 against Prince George. Luca Cagnoni suffered a concussion and was in concussion protocol when he missed time during the playoffs. And multiple players, including James Stefan, were battling an illness that went through the locker room. And with this, we have ourselves the main update as to what's happening with Nate Danielson. He'll be heading over to Grand Rapids and helping out them in their playoff run, which I'm super excited to see because not only have the Grand Rapids Griffins made a pretty significant impact so far, if you take a look at them in their Central Division Final Series, they're up 1-0 against Milwaukee. Shout out to Marco Kasper for scoring the game-winning goal in the third period to take Game 1 with a score of 4-2. But Nate Danielson heading over to the AHL is going to be a really good introductory step to his pro hockey career. Some of the replies in this tweet are going out there and talking about the sadness here. Paul goes out there and says this: "Fun for a short time it lasted having Nate Danielson, but they knew when they acquired him it's probably only going to be for this season. If he's not in Detroit, he'll be in Grand Rapids, as he's one of those who does not have to wait 2 years to play in the AHL." And I think that's because Nate Danielson will be 20 years old by the time the preseason ends, so he should be eligible to go. I'm not too sure if that's exactly how it works, but if somebody wants to correct me, then hey, feel free to do so. Having Nate Danielson get a big cup of coffee with the AHL squad right now is going to help him out tremendously. Even if he doesn't play, even if he doesn't crack the lineup and demote one of the guys that's already been suiting up. As long as he's around that team, he's around the culture, he's keeping up with some of the Griffins that are already, you could say, NHL caliber players. Like, I think a lot of people could say that Jonathan Berggren, for example, he could be an NHL guy. Marco Kasper, if you wanted to play him in the NHL right now, he'd be okay. So having Nate Danielson just be surrounded in an environment with guys like this will be good for his development. And getting it early, not having to go through an entire summer of off-season training, etc., and then get that culture shock in September, this is going to be good for him to acknowledge all of this stuff now, especially in an ultra-competitive scenario like what the Griffins are facing with right now. They're in the playoffs and they have a 1-0 lead. What more could you want? Not to mention the fact that having Nate Danielson develop some early chemistry with other AHL Grand Rapids young guys like Marco Kasper, for example, like the Elmer Soderbloms and the Carter Mazurs, it's going to be nice to see the early seeds be planted of potential teammates for the long term. Because heading into the long term, if Nate Danielson is just able to use this period to get to know his teammates a little bit easier, then hey, there's nothing wrong with this kind of a development. And of course, if the odd scenario happens where Nate Danielson impresses so much that he's able to actually play, he gets a game or two against Milwaukee, maybe he sticks around in the middle to bottom 6, if he's able to actually start producing, then that would be the ultimate best case scenario. But of course, you can't really expect too much out of a 19-year-old who is straight out of the WHL playoffs and going over to the AHL. If he is amazing, then fantastic. If he doesn't play, then still, that's fantastic. Just having him in that environment is more than enough. But at the end of the day, this is a very bittersweet update because with the end of the Portland Winterhawks season, pretty much comes the end of Nate Danielson's WHL career, to my understanding. If he does go back to the Dub next season, then okay, this entire video is gone down the drain. But for now, we are under the impression that this is kind of how it's going to go. So if you're a fan of the Portland Winterhawks, then hey, the floor is yours. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as to how the season went, how happy you are, sad you are, disappointed in the results. I mean, based off of the Instagram comments, a lot of Portland fans seem to be very satisfied with how everything went down, and the goodbyes for Nate Danielson seem to be spreading pretty thoroughly amongst the fan base. But of course, Portland is one team on the path to the NHL for Nate Danielson. At the end of the day, this is a Red Wings prospect that is doing some very good things, and hopefully he carries that over into the AHL for the Grand Rapids Griffins. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as to how everything is going to go down. What are your thoughts about the way Danielson's played, and where do you think he's going to get a spot in this lineup, if you think he's going to get one, that is. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.